Hi, I'm Lori with To The Trade from Interior Design Community, and I have Niall here. And hi, Niall.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Fantastic.
It started out rainy, went for my walk, and then sunshine. So excited.
Oh, you sent the rain down here because it literally just
I did. I
stopped.
did.
Yeah,
It was intentional. I was like,
it was rain
can I
and it was
ruin?
random. We had 3 seasons in one day. It was cold when I walked to my car this morning. It was really hot when I got out the car at my office. And when I walked back in from lunch, it was pouring. It's like, yeah, it's crazy today.
I, I'm over the mix of those things. I'm ready for like full true summer.
Yeah.
Full true summer.
Yes.
It's coming. It's
Man,
coming. And of course, we have Justin here. Justin, please introduce yourself. We're so excited that you're on the podcast.
Well, thank you guys for having me. When you asked, it was a no-brainer. So I'm so excited to be here with you guys. And Niall, it's so good to see you. Niall and I have been friends on social media for years and have never met. So
nope.
this is really fantastic.
How crazy.
No,
Isn't that
right?
I
so
know,
neat
right?
about
It's
social
older.
media? How you become like such good friends with
Yes,
people that you meet
yes.
online? Like
No,
it's so
kindred
weird to
spirits,
me.
kindred spirits, and you can sense that through the waves of social media. So my name is Justin Q. Williams, interior designer based here in Atlanta, Georgia, also television personality and product developer. And it's so good to be with you guys. You talked about rain. Well, it's been raining for 40 days and 40 nights here in Atlanta. So, so hopefully that comes to an end soon, but it's great to be here with you guys.
I love it. We have been really excited about having you come on because you have kind of a unique journey. Can you tell us a little bit about you started and launched your business when you were 18 years old?
Crazy.
18 people.
Crazy.
That is
Oh
so
my
crazy
God.
young. How did you know this was the thing that you wanted to do at such a young age?
Yeah, well, touching on the 18-year-old thing, you have to think about it. When you're young, you're fearless. And I can't
So
say
true.
that I would have started a business at my age now, 36, but it started when I was really young. I was the kid in church writing on the back of the programs, drawing pictures of houses. And a funny story that my mom tells every single year, every year that the family's together, she says, "Remember when you drew that huge mansion and then you drew this little shack next to it and you said, Mom and Dad are gonna live here and I'll live here." And I always tell her, well, look, at least I want you close by. A lot of people's parents want you close by. So that's how it started. I was really young. I always had a huge love for interior design and architecture, but I didn't know that it was a job because I was, middle school age. And my parents were doing a renovation on our family home, and I drew the plans in 3D for the builder. And
Wow.
he saw the plans. My dad gave him the plans, and he's like, "Hey, who'd you have do these plans?" And he said, "Oh, my son did them." He's like, "Not the 12-year-old." And so it kind of started from there because every summer that I was out of school, he would allow me to come and shadow him. So it started just by me observing, him taking nothing and creating a structure to me actually, handing him the hammer, then, nailing the nails in, and then I'm on the roof of a 4-story house doing shingles. So that's how I learned, just the inner and outer workings of a home. And from,
You know,
yeah,
I'm fascinated by that because I just saw this podcast. It's from a builder show, and I was watching it. It was really, really interesting to me because they were interviewing architects that were saying that after they finish this, architecture school, that there isn't really like a apprenticeship version of that. And so you often leave school and literally don't know how to do it. And you don't really understand the building process at all, like
yeah,
at all, fundamentally. And what a hindrance that is, because he's like, imagine being a chef and you learned everything about how to cook, but you never did it. And
Yeah.
so I had read years and years ago, and I wish I remember the name of the book, but it was about how the United States, we were losing apprenticeship. We were so many people in the Gen X version or younger were getting older and realizing they didn't even really know what their parents did, much less like learn from them what they did and learn on the job. And I love how many stories in the world of interior design where that element was not carried through, that there is this like apprenticeship that you learned very early and you adopted the love of design because of what you were learning
yes.
from your parents. Like that's fascinating to me.
Absolutely. And it's funny because my parents always joke that they don't know where it came from because they have not one decorating bone in their body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
funny that you say that though, because I speak to students who are in design school all over the place. You know, their professors ask me to come and speak, and I love that. But I always tell them that school teaches you the technicalities of interior design. I did not go to school for interior design. I learned hands-on. And I always tell those students to learn different aspects of interior design. And a lot of people don't think that there are different aspects. You should learn how to photo style. You need to sit with a photographer who's an interior photographer because that will allow you to translate your projects in the best way possible.
Right. It's almost like you're learning what having that eye looks like. I mean, and there are designers too, I think, that have been, I have this really interesting, been running interior design community for as long as I have, a kind of like this bird's eye view of designers. And I know designers who've gone the traditional route and have been very successful and are very good designers. But I also know designers who've gone the traditional route and just don't, for whatever reason, go to that next level because it's a lifelong learning thing.
Definitely.
And I think even the self-taught designers, you're not going to ever stop learning. There's always going to be a new material. There's always going to be a new method. There's always going to be a new way to introduce those product lines. And it's just a never ending learning journey,
Yeah.
I think. But CAD work at 12 or 13, I know designers that are experienced 40 years in the industry that are like, I hate CAD. I don't know how to do it at all. So what led you to try something so technical so young?
So that was my father. I told him that I had an interest in this, and he saw it. And he purchased Cheap Home Architect. At the time, it was, even the CD-ROM then.
Right.
But he purchased Chief Home Architect, and my cousin is an architectural drafter. So we're
Ah,
around the same age. Just, create structures together. We would sit at the computer for hours and create different structures. I wish that I had some of our early things so I could look back on it and laugh. But we would do that, and then there was a game called The Sims, and we would just build.
Yeah.
You could just
oh my
I
gosh,
love that.
we've
I
heard
love
other
that.
designers start with Sims.
Me too. I
I
used to do
wonder if
that.
the next Gen Zers will be like Minecraft.
Right,
Minecraft is their way,
exactly.
right?
Yes, my cousin and I, we would just sit on the computer for hours, just developing these different plans and houses that we aspire to have one day. And that's kind of how this all started.
I love that. Now you were in school, you were interested more in biology and business.
Yes.
Well, how did that pivot over? Because I know my daughter, she is a bio major, she was a bio major as well, but she always had that love of art. I think arts and sciences typically do go together more than people think they
Right.
do.
Yes. So it's funny because I went to school in Daytona Beach, Florida, at Bethune-Cookman University. And I had a professor who he was a business professor. He came into the class and he said, look, guys, the deans are not going to like me for this, but you guys need to take what you're good at and sell it as long as it's legal. You know? He said, don't take it out of context, but take what you're good at and sell it. And that, I don't know, for whatever reason, that has just stuck with me for years and years and years. And during that time, I called my parents and I said, I really want to do this interior design thing. And they had my back. So
Yeah.
I had my very first project. It was a friend's aunt, and I decorated her new condo. She told the people in the sales lounge that, hey, I had my nephew's friend do my place. You guys should take a look at it. By the time the year it ended, I had done 10 units in the building. And
Wow.
one
Wow.
of them
Wow.
is very popular blogger. And she blogged a photo of myself and my cousin, because my cousin was my very first assistant. And she blogged the photo of us. And from there, it just kind of turned into a business. And I actually had to catch up to my business, which is why I also tell a lot of the students and people that I speak to as, plan as if it's so. Plan as if you already have a business, have a name for yourself, have your processes in place, because I did the opposite and I ended up having to catch up to my business which is kind of a backwards way to do it. But if you
Right.
plan as if it's so, you're already prepared. And I learned that the hard way, but I learned it nevertheless.
Yeah. But I do still think that there are a lot of people who come into this industry with like just a dream of starting an industry, and they really think small. They're like, I just want to make a living doing this. And sometimes it keeps them small. It keeps them from earning the profit that they really need to earn, or having a 401k, or being able to expand to have an assistant. Because if you're not thinking, you could price yourself in a way where you're not making enough money to do those things, right? I mean,
Right.
if you're not really careful about that. And one of the things I was like going through your site and going through your experience as a designer, because I tried to do my research, you were thinking big from the very beginning. You were thinking brand from the very beginning. And I will say, we've interviewed also past HGTV stars and people who came into it, it's exciting, you've got an opportunity, but do you think of it as a brand? And a lot of them, didn't until after the fact.
Yeah.
And is that kind of what happened with you, or did you always know, I'm thinking about what your professor said, like, I'm going to try to make this like a bigger business than just doing labor services for hire.
Yes.
I'm going to make myself a brand.
When I started, I would look at other businesses and kind of how they were set up. I thought initially, I was like, I probably should have a blog. I should do this. I should do that. But then I started thinking, what is it that you want to do and how is it that you want to be perceived? And so that's kind of where I just started to look at what does this brand look like to you? And I knew I
Right.
wanted something that was representative of me, which was just classic, stylish, minimal, and effective. So that's kind of where I started and just build block from there.
Now, do you think in part of that, I always think about this, like, because I kind of remember in the very beginning stages when I started doing interior design community, and I've got like a Facebook page and I've got an Instagram, and we were doing a lot on social media. I had a Twitter back then and Google Plus and all of those, and I have blog and all of the things. And you have to almost at one point craft, it's me. It is Lori Leisure, but it's also me through the filter of interior design
Yeah.
community. And so as you talk to me, there are things I'm not going to say sometimes because I'm like, I am representing the world of interior design
Mhm.
often when I'm speaking. So is when you're approaching that and you're thinking, I want to build this as a brand. And I'm kind of wondering also, because I know I'm segmenting this a little bit, but
Right.
did the blogger also like show you having, doing the bloggers and what can happen like that, opening the door and a bunch of people see what you've done?
Yeah.
Did that open your eyes to, wow, I can build this in a way that has this social component or has this online component but you have to also like, you're you, but you're not. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like you're you, but you're not you.
Yes, it makes total sense. So what that showed me is that there's power in numbers.
Yes.
Someone that has a lot of followers, there are a lot of eyes that are on you, and that's exposure. And exposure is a good thing, and some people don't see it that way. So there was something that you said just now that oh, yes. So when it came to building the brand, I wanted to focus more so on me as a person. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because we work in a very personal field. We're in people's
Right.
homes, around their families, things of that nature. So they need to understand a little bit about who you are as a person before they invite you into their home. I mean, I know that's something that I would think about, if I have
Yeah.
in my home,
Absolutely.
with a key even, and codes to the alarm. So those are things that are very important. Someone should know who you are just a little bit
Right.
before they invite you
Well, it's
in. So
also, I feel like with design too, there's so much trust that needs to
yes.
be given to
Mhm.
that person. Like you're trusting them with a huge amount of your money and,
But she
time too. So it's like, geez, you've got to, I think building that online record, like that credibility and that trust factor has got to be like a shortcut almost
Yeah.
to that
So
trust.
I'm wondering though, like you mentioned exposure. How do you stay creatively full when you have the world, right, constantly demanding content and experiences and transformations, if you will? Like, how do you stay creatively full, like when everybody's watching? How? Because when we design, that's one thing, right?
Right.
But designing when everyone's watching is a whole other thing. So,
Mhm.
how do you do that? How do you do that?
Well, I just try to stay as true as possible to myself. And I always tell people, again, going back to design school, you learn the technicalities, but where's the heart in your design? Where's the you in
Yeah,
your design? I love it. I absolutely love it when someone can see a picture of my work and say, I know you did this because of A, B, C, D. So that's
yeah,
where you put your personality into your work. And sometimes you just kind of have to turn a blind eye to all of those other eyes that are on you and
yeah.
you, you know?
I would
Yeah.
say, yeah, I agree because I feel like your work always knows like who it is. Like
Yeah.
it's very sure of itself. Where does that confidence come from when you're designing? Like, how do you inject that into your work?
So, of course, we're designing for clients. So we go
Right.
through this
Absolutely.
detailed questionnaire about what is it that you want this room to say? Right. So I make sure that I check all of those boxes while also putting a little bit of my flavor into it as well. And they've come to me because they like that look, they like my aesthetic. So,
Right.
I feel justified in putting my flavor into it, but also making sure that I check off all of their requirements as well.
I love that. And you also
Yeah.
you've described yourself as fashionable yet functional.
Yes.
How do you balance that aesthetic, pleasing the aesthetics with the real world use? How do you balance that together?
It's always function first for me because I think about how I want to live and I want to be comfortable in my home. And I
Yeah.
know that other people want to be comfortable in their homes as well. They don't want to feel like they can't sit on this or they can't move that or they can't touch this. Add your own personality. There are even times when I'm designing a space and I'll leave empty spaces on shelves so that they can insert themselves into the space. So it's very,
Yeah. And I think that's what makes your space is not just beautiful, but intentional. I think that's the difference between what you do and what some other people do. Like you're very intentional. It's beautiful, but it's also very intentional. Your
absolutely,
work.
absolutely. And I learned that honestly with my hands-on training with my very first mentor. Her name's Annette Joseph. She's a photo stylist, now an author. And she taught me to make it personal, you know?
Mm.
And when we're photographing spaces, it's so funny when I worked under her, we would go into spaces that were being shot for, magazine or commercial or something like that. And the interior designer of the space will be standing right there as we totally change this room around. And they're looking there like, what are you doing? But we have to make sure that it translates well on print. We have to make sure that it translates
Yeah.
well on camera. So that's what a stylist does. But you also have to be, like you said now, very intentional with placement, very intentional with pieces that you use, colors, everything.
Yeah, that's a lot of forethought. Did you carry that work? Was this prior to or after HGTV
This was
became
prior
not?
to.
So you had all of this experience before you came into HGTV world. How did you how did you bring that in and develop that, and did you rethink your brand as that became like, okay, now I'm going to have a wider audience?
So my stint on HGTV, it taught me to really hone in and pinpoint my brand. And it was on the show that Jonathan Adler talked about this. So we had a conversation on and off camera about what is it that you want your brand to say. And I was talking to another friend of mine, one of my best friends, her name is Erica Ward, and we were just going back and forth about now you know Erica too. And
Love
Yeah.
Erica. We love
We
her.
love Erica.
Yes.
and we were just going through different ideas and we came up with penthouse panache because
Ooh.
that is a phrase that you can visualize And it's also something that showcases that I can say that will showcase my work in a 30-second elevator pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that is hugely important because if you can't translate, if you're building a brand, and any
Mhm.
marketer will tell you this, if you hire a really high-end professional marketer, and I've worked with lots and lots of them over the course of our time in Interior Design Community, their first thing is if you don't know who you are, you really can't sell that to someone
Yeah.
else. And so you have to have that elevator pitch
Yes,
down,
absolutely.
and you have to be able to say it within a minute.
Yeah,
And they have to get it. They visually have to get what it is you are and what you're bringing to the table,
absolutely.
or you lose people. We're living in the world where like people have no attention span.
Like,
I know myself.
can't get it across in 30 seconds, it's out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is out.
I
Yeah.
love that that's something that you knew to develop early. I've interviewed different HGV people, especially those HGV stars that happened in the very, very beginning
Yeah.
that were on HGTV years ago, and they didn't know that they were building a brand. They had no idea,
Right.
many of them, that that's what the opportunity was. They were just thinking, hey, this is exciting. I get to be on television. They weren't thinking, how can I use what this is to make more money somewhere else
Yeah.
down the road?
Yeah, for
Because you're
sure.
certainly not going to be making it on HGTV.
Yeah, no. And you have to go in with that plan. So when I got the call that I would be on HGTV, I started planning. Like, okay, HGTV is the start, but where do you want it to go from here? Once you have these eyes on you, then what?
Right,
And I knew from that point that I wanted to do products. I didn't know what it
right,
was. I just wanted to start product development within the realm of the home. And
right.
from there, it was furniture, then art, and there are plans for other outlets as well. So it's just you have to have a plan. When you're afforded that opportunity, you have to have a plan on where you want it to go.
I think so too. I think you're getting and that's true for almost any business decision you make. I mean, it's great to have an opportunity to do something as big as HGTV, but even if it's something like you're going to spend your marketing dollars on going to High Point,
Uh-huh.
go with intention and have a strategy and plan in
Yes.
place so that you are getting the maximum amount of benefit from it.
Yeah.
And it's not just a waste of your time and money. And it's like anything that you're doing. I think sometimes I think designers are resistant to that because it feels like having a plan or being strategic feels inauthentic.
It feels,
And I think that's a struggle.
I think it's hard for artists to feel type A.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that's what happens
Yeah.
with a lot of designers, but you have to get out of that mindset and get into a business mindset. So it's like, as a designer, you really do have to wear many hats, you know? So there was this post that I saw on Instagram and it's like, welcome to the marketer. And it had a picture of the girl and she posted one way and then she says, I'm the interior designer. And it had her in another position. And then it's like, I'm the social media manager. It's like her in another position. And that resonated with me because every single day, that is who I am. You know, you have to
Yeah.
get into all of these different avenues as a business owner, as a designer, that will take you to the next level.
Do you segment your days accordingly? Do you mix that up, and or do you wear different hats and organize how today is going to be a market, Mondays are marketing days, Tuesdays are, or are you more
You know, Lori,
flowing with it?
these days I wish I could, but if I get a call from a contractor that says, "Hey, we put this rain head shower in, and we think it goes this way, but the client wants it to go this way. Can we get your eyes on this?" And I have to hop in my car and drive to the
Yeah.
location. You know, so
Yeah.
Right.
it these days it's a little different, and I try to do the best that I can, but it doesn't always happen that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the best laid plans,
Yeah.
situation. When you were filming, you mentioned that before that it was difficult. And
Yes.
how did you sort of handle that pressure? I mean, it feels like it would be such a high pressure thing. And Niall, you could probably answer that too, because you did the same thing.
So keeping in mind that I have a business to run, but I
Yeah.
also have to live in California, for 3 months.
Yeah.
Well, you have clients that are calling you while you're on set. During your breaks, you're returning those calls. You're
Oh
communicating
my
with the
gosh.
team in Atlanta, 3 hour time difference. So there were just so many different things that you just have to navigate during the time, especially if you're filming for television, because that is very demanding in itself, but also your job is very demanding. I tried to offset as much as I could before leaving, but it doesn't always happen that way. It doesn't always work on your schedule, and things happen. So what I did was I just allocated my lunch time to my work time here in Atlanta, and so I would hop on Zoom calls during lunch, hop on any calls that I needed to return during lunch. I would respond to my emails during lunch and then go back to filming. So it was very, very difficult during that time. But the good thing is that we were 3 hours behind. So I had the time, once we wrapped filming, I had the time to still do some Atlanta work while I was in California.
So did you
Oh
lose
my
weight? I mean,
gosh.
I'm assuming you didn't
I was
eat.
gonna say, yeah, you're like,
Well, no, I didn't lose any weight. I still ate, but it was very stressful. I
jeez.
will say that.
I can imagine because I feel like that schedule, the taping schedule can be quite grueling, and to have, to be juggling the business at the same time. How many projects did you have while this was going
Like,
on?
gotten it down to 3 projects during that time, but those 3 projects were very demanding. And
Oh gosh.
Ashley, who was my assistant at the time, who was in Atlanta, she just put on her boss hat, and
Oh,
God for her, because she really did hold it down while I was away. And it was just nice to be able to have someone to rely on. You have to have good people to rely on with whatever
Mhm.
job you do, not only just interior design, but when you
right.
have someone who takes ownership of the projects the same way that you do, it's a game
Mhm.
changer.
It really is. It really is. And do you envision that you want to do more television work? I mean, is it something that you fell in love with, or is it something you kind of, yes, I
Yeah.
did that, check that off. That
So
was
I mean,
it.
yeah.
you've done things after
You've done other
HGTV.
Yeah.
things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
yeah,
I
yeah.
currently have a television show. It's called Style Kings, and they
Right.
follow me around in, my day-to-day life with interiors. And so it's been great. I always knew that I wanted to do television. I just didn't know at what capacity I wanted to do it. So when I was
Yeah.
19 years old, I had auditioned for Design Star,
oh wow.
and I was heartbroken and rejected.
You and me both. You,
And years later, I was taking a nap. I had not auditioned, I had not applied or anything, and I got a call from a casting agency. I woke up from that nap and I thought that it was like a prank call. And so I got on the phone, like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. Sure, I'll look for your email when we get off the call. And I went back to sleep. So the next day I got that email and I was like, whoa, that was real.
That's real. Oh my gosh, I wasn't dreaming.
I very quickly, and that's how Design Star Next Gen came into play.
I'm so curious about your parents. Were they super proud of
Yes.
seeing you on
oh yeah, I'm
television? Like, was
sure.
that like a moment or
So,
what?
yes, like if you look on my social media, my parents are all over it. They're either commenting or I'm putting their pictures up. And, they have always supported my dream of design, which is super important. And I always tell people that do have small kids or, high school kids, middle school aged kids, to support your child's dream, because you never know where it will lead you. Because my parents are not artistic people. They are very much, work your job until retirement. That way you're settled and you're set in life and you're good to go. So this was very obscure for them. They were just like, wait, you want to do what? Decorate houses?
You could make a living doing that?
Right, right. Like,
Right?
help us understand. And I think that was the part that was the game changer for me. As long as I could help them understand, they were in. And I put together a PowerPoint presentation and I showed them this. I had just graduated high school, and this was right before the professor said, take what you're good at and sell it. And I showed them this because that was something that I really wanted to do. And I helped them to understand it. And since they had a good, clear understanding of what it was, that I think helped them into supporting me even more.
I love that. I mean, honestly, that's really
Nice.
Yeah.
so exciting when your
Yes.
parents validate really
Yeah.
the dream, because it gives people the encouragement to do that. We've talked to designers along the way that their parents were not supportive
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
entering into this field. Like, it just seems, especially you can imagine, like, some people, they don't even know anybody that's ever had their home designed.
Right.
Why would,
Right.
it feels like, being an astronaut or, being a movie star. Sure. Okay. You don't know anybody that needs a house that's going to need design, like, that needs design work. So
No one knows they need a house design until they've had it designed.
exactly. And I've even
That part.
talked to incredibly wealthy people that first time they ever got their house designed, they were like, wow, this
Yeah.
is a game changer. I will never not do it.
Yeah.
I will never not do it. The value is so massive.
Absolutely.
Now, you also have an amazing social media presence. How do you fit that in? And how do you make that a part of the brand?
So that was a big part. There were so many people like, oh, you need to create a business page and your personal page. And I'm like, why? I showcase my family, my friends, my dog, and so that way it's a one-stop shop. People can get to know who I am, the things that I like, and they can also see my work. And another part of that is to not create more unnecessary work for myself. That was the
Smart.
Yeah,
biggest part of it because burnout is real.
it is.
It is real.
Oh
And
my gosh, it's an epidemic in our industry, I really think.
yes,
It really is.
it's real and it's underrated because it happens a lot more
Yeah.
often than people think. And I didn't want to create that for myself.
Yeah.
Okay, you brought him up. So, what's one thing that's Alon? Is it Alon or Alon?
Alon, yeah.
What's one thing that he's taught you about you?
He's taught me that I love, like he's just, and I don't want to go because I feel like I'm talking about my child now, but he
No,
is
I get it.
the most loving dog. And I've had him since he was 8 months. He just turned 12 in May.
Oh,
Sorry, 8 weeks. I've had him since he was 8 weeks old. He just turned 12 in May, and he's just the most loving dog. And I probably, once that time comes, I don't think I'll get another dog.
Yeah. It's hard in the beginning.
Yeah.
I think you probably will, but
it's hard. Yes.
it's hard in the beginning.
Like, yeah.
There's
It's
a
hard
great
in the beginning.
There's a
of
great
that.
poem. I'll have to find it because I said the same thing when my Yorkie went, and somebody sent me this great poem about that, and so I'll have to find it and send it to you.
Please do. Please
About
do.
the whole process.
But
Yeah.
a great dog. I will say that he's taught me a lot of patience. He is a very his dog. I don't know if you've ever, heard about standard poodles, but they're very,
Oh yeah.
very finicky
Oh yeah.
dogs, and their hair takes a lot of maintenance. And I don't have hair, so it's just,
Just their personality. Period. They always say like poodles are the dogs. Like every other dog will, like, if there's a hole in the ground, every other dog will walk around the hole so that to walk around the hole.
Yeah.
The poodle will hop over the hole
Mhm.
and let you fall in the hole.
Yes.
And then look back like, oh, well,
Ah.
you should have known. Like, yeah, so I get it. No, I totally get it.
Yeah.
So you and I both really love music.
Yes.
What's one track that puts you in a creative mood, like in an instant? Is there one?
And I don't know if there's one, but flip that because there is a morning wake up song that I have, and it's called You. And there's I forget the people that sing it, but it's a choir that sings it.
Okay.
And it's upbeat song, and it's just all of these affirmations that you can do this, you can do
Oh, nice.
It's like my morning wake up song. It gets me going. It motivates me to just,
Nice.
energy, and hopefully that will last throughout the day.
And you listen to that every morning?
Every morning.
My
Smart.
husband was James Brown every morning. I was like, James Brown every morning. Every single morning. I was like,
I love
feel
it.
good.
I love it. I love that.
It got me like,
that.
I got annoyed with it after a while because I'm like, all right, can we at least change the song so that it's a different song waking me up every morning.
And I use it to scare people. Like I will scare the kids. Like I will play that song because it starts with that, and I will put it
Yes.
on the song. I'll put it on the Sonos in their room. They'll be in there, and I'll just, because I'm a prankster, and I'll
I
turn it
love
all the
it.
way up, and I'll hit play and just watch them jump 10 feet in the air. It's just because I'm terrible that way.
You're
Yeah,
very terrible.
I'm terrible.
Funny.
Well, I think it's amazing that you did that, but it is hard to develop, the online. I mean, there is something about, like, for you who are listening, when you do decide to market yourself, it's not easy. It's not easy
No.
to layer it in a way that feels like you're still talking about design,
Yeah.
or the point of that,
To
and
bring
you do it
everything back. Yeah.
so well. I mean, you've got cooking, you've got entertainment, you've got the pets, you've got it, and it does show you.
Yeah.
And I bet that the clients that find you after they've experienced your online already feel like they know you.
Yeah.
Is that what you're often hearing?
That's what I was going for. So it's music to my ears if I walk into a home for a consultation, like, what's your dog doing? How are you doing? Things
Oh,
like that, because that is what I want to happen. I want you to feel like you know a little bit about me before I come into your home, because I feel like that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely is. And I would think that they see you as a person.
Yeah.
So it's not just this cold business relationship where they're expecting this. They understand you as a human,
Yes.
and they have empathy for you already. They
Yes.
care about you already. They care about your life already. They're invested.
And there are so
And
many clients who have turned friends in my life that,
oh,
and I
wow.
think that, the online presence is an attribute to that, because, we knew a little bit about each other before, but now I really know who you are. And I did a very popular influencer's home, and he commented under that post, and he said, it's like decorating with your best friend. And that just
oh,
meant the world to me, because I didn't want to come across as this stark professional and we're going to do things A, B, C, and D. No, I want it to feel like, hey guys, we're not doing brain surgery here. We're decorating your house. This is supposed to be fun for you and for me. Let's create a beautiful space and let's have fun while we're doing it.
oh, and that sets a tone. I'm sure they feel, relaxed, and they can sometimes that allows people also to be more truthful with you,
Yes.
because and really get into like who they really are, because they feel comfortable with you
Yes.
already. It's
And
not this like cold business personality
yes.
that they have to feel like, I don't know what to say. I want to, and people will lie
Yeah.
if they don't feel comfortable,
Yes.
right? And then you're going to give them lesser product because they're not telling you the truth.
The thing is, you have to be authentic. Be your
Mhm.
authentic self. And that goes with business, that goes with social media. Be who you are. That way, everybody is comfortable in this situation. I think a lot of
Mhm.
people hire interior designers thinking, oh, everything's going to be perfect because I hired an interior designer. That's not true. You hire an interior designer because we know how to deal with things when they don't go perfectly.
That's
Right.
it. Yeah.
That's very important to know. And that's something that I discuss up front, because things are going to come in broken, maybe. You know, some contractor's going to reschedule, maybe. Things are going to happen, but we have the tools as designers to handle it.
Right.
Know that you're in good hands.
Right. I mean, the
It's
problems
so
would have happened regardless,
Yeah.
whether or not you were part of it, or, I mean, if they were trying to do it themselves, believe me, a lot more problems would happen,
Yes.
and they wouldn't know how to handle those problems.
Right.
You're so right about
Right.
that.
like you have the expertise to handle it, but people, like you said, have that misconception that it's going to be perfect. It's like I always tell clients, like, it's the same idea with marriage. You think the marriage starts the moment you say I do, and I heard this, I think it was Viola Davis say that that's not true.
Yeah.
The marriage starts when you're sitting across the table from each other and you want to kill each other.
Yes.
That's when the marriage starts.
Exactly.
And so, like, having me doesn't mean there won't be tears. There will be. I just know how to manage them. Like, I will help you, I will help you reduce them or manage the situation.
And it's because you've
Yeah.
been in that situation time and time and time again. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, if we have anyone that's, with us, with the company, I always tell them no project is the same. I've been doing this for years and I have not had one project that has been like the other. There have been
Exactly.
different wrenches that have been thrown. There have been some no wrenches have been thrown, so
Yes.
project is the same, and you have to be able to adapt and welcome that with open arms.
Now, you've also done some commercial work
Yeah.
too.
Yes.
How are you managing a firm that does commercial work as well as residential?
So it's been a lot of studying lately. Uh,
Right.
I was kind of thrown into commercial work. Like I said, I've done tons of homes, worked with tons of clients, and one client in particular, we started with one home in 2021. From there, she bought 3 other houses, investment properties. Did those have
Ah.
hell? Well, she's a restaurateur, and she thought, Justin, we should redesign the restaurants. She has 2 restaurants. So then I'm like,
Nice.
okay, well, I'm a residential designer. She's like, no, you can do it. You can handle it. Go ahead and let's just. So
That's easy.
kind of, I felt like that 18-year-old again. It's like, well, we're just going to jump into this. And we did those restaurants. And from that point, other restaurateurs started seeing that. And so I got hired to do other restaurants. And so it's been a fun journey. I do like commercial design. And
Does it feel a little bit less personal too? Like you have to think about different things. There's a different set of challenges, but it's like getting approvals has to be a little easier.
it's much easier, but you also have to think about their brand at that point.
Sure.
How are you
Yeah.
going to translate this to their clientele? Will they welcome it? So you have to think about those things. And just earlier this week, we were hired to work with probably the biggest company that I've ever signed. And I can't say anything about it right now, but it's coming.
Exciting.
Congratulations.
That's exciting. And let's jump into it then, because I also want to talk about your furniture and product design. How did you said you knew very early on that was definitely something that you wanted to be part of your journey. What's the process of developing a product line for a
So
designer?
the process for me was just starting. With anything that you do, it's just starting. And I was sitting down on my sofa one day and I thought, I would love to design furniture. And I just started sketching things out that I liked, that I would like to see in homes and that I would like to sell to people. I sketched them out. I had the schematics drawn for them professionally and printed. And I took those and I prayed over them and I put them in a coat closet. A year later, I was called by Tav Furniture, and Tav said,
They're
"Hey,"
great, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and they said, "Hey, we're looking for designers that want to, have a furniture line. Oh, let me go to the closet. Got it right here ready for you." And so that's, I think, the lesson that I learned early on in not having to catch up to the business. Here, I was prepared. And so Tav asked, well, hey, do you have any other designers that you know? I'm like, yeah, I know Niall. I know
Mhm.
different designers. Let's call them up too. So, that's how the furniture line happened.
I love
Yeah, I
that.
wouldn't have even know. I wouldn't have not been involved had he not given my name. So I got this email and I'm like, and I thought that was a fake email. I'm like, this is not what a friend and I think was it the pandemic that they did it,
Yeah.
right? I was like, who's designing furniture in the middle of the pandemic? I'm like, this is spam. This is spam. And I think it was Erica that said, no, Justin gave your name. And I was like, what? Yes. So and I immediately was like, thank you so much.
Well,
Yeah.
But that's part of, I love seeing that because that's part of how community should work, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, we
that's
have
how
this
we
conversation
are
all the
with
time.
each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that is such a myth in the world of design is that people think of design as being so like
Competitive.
competitive and
Yeah.
everyone has an angle and there's but there's so many real friends
Oh, yeah.
in the world of design and so many really great amazing people, and I mean come on, there's some bad ones too, but
Yeah. No,
we
yeah.
all know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's so many more great people that are honest and genuine, want to work with you and
Yeah.
have your back and would lift you up because it's going, it helps us all to
Well,
help one
Yeah,
another.
it raises the bar all the way across
Yeah.
for everyone.
Sure.
And that's the
You know
thing.
what
Yeah.
I mean?
I don't want anyone to hesitate to call me if they need to source something or they feel like I know someone who can do something, because I'm going to pick up my phone. If I need help with something like this commercial project, I needed help with just one particular part of it. I called everyone that I knew and got the help that I needed. So,
Yeah.
I feel like that's the way that it should be in interiors, in whatever field that you work in. That's how it should be. If you need something, you should be able to have someone in your phone that you can call and say, hey guys, I need help with this. Can you help?
And I think honestly that if you're doing it, you're also teaching future designers or younger designers to do it
Yeah.
too. If it develops a culture too
Yes.
of you help me, I help you. We're all in this together. We're going to
Yes.
share information. We're going to learn from one another. We're going to grow. And I have never seen that backfire.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen someone take the information and no one is going to be you.
Right. Right.
So it's crazy to be that. And then you also have an art line
Yes.
too, which is amazing.
It's
So
yeah,
that's
it's
your art, right? You
Yes.
painted
Well,
and
no,
they
no, no.
just are making
Okay.
reproductions.
So here's how it works with art, because a lot of people ask me that. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, do you actually take the brushes and no, I don't.
Okay.
So what we'll do is I'll sit down with their art team. They will sit with my sketches and my inspiration, and we'll develop these pieces together. Left Bank has an entire team of artists that will put these pieces together. And so we'll tweak them until we get the final piece. And then from there, it can go into production. And so when it goes into production, they sell thousands of them all over.
Absolutely.
So
They do.
that's how,
They are a machine.
yeah,
They are a machine.
yes. If it was me painting on canvas, you get your piece in 3 years. So,
Yeah.
but Left Bank, you get your pieces in 2 weeks.
That is fantastic. And I came from the fine art. That's where I started, was the fine art reproduction world. I helped like develop canvas, watercolor papers, inks,
Yeah.
coding for fine art reproduction from the earliest days of fine art reproduction. I knew the people who invented the term giclée. Like I
Yes.
knew Jack DeGan personally.
I
So
you play
yeah.
pieces, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know the story too? It's hilarious that it actually means to ejaculate in French, which is hilarious.
I'm not making that connection.
Well, there was a printer that sprayed the ink, and so they wanted to spray, and so they looked it up, and they found to spray was giclée, and they didn't know that it's actually used to ejaculate.
Oh,
We all think we're super fancy
they,
over here.
they
in the US,
found that
but
out
it's
after the
giclée.
fact. Oh my God,
They
that's
found it out years
crazy.
later. He didn't know because Jack was not his last name's French, but he wasn't French. He had just used
Wow.
a French English dictionary.
Oh,
But it's hilarious.
That is funny.
Yes. So you have lots of mentors that you've worked with.
yes.
How important has mentorship been in your career?
Extremely, extremely. It's a part of that hands-on experience that I feel is so important to, young designers that are wanting to create a business out of this. Having hands-on experience is going to teach you the things that you don't learn in school.
Right.
So, and that goes from, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You go
No,
ahead.
that goes from like communicating with your clients to your vendors, sourcing, all of these things. And the biggest thing about it is relationship. And I always tell the students to forge those relationships, nurture those relationships. If you have a vendor that you've worked with for years, you should know their family, you should know their interests, you should know all of these different things about this person, because that person is going to look out for you. There have been times that I've had to have furniture picked up over the weekend when the vendors closed, and that my rep has set that all up and orchestrated that for me because of that relationship that we've built with them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I will say, because I've had great mentors in my career as well, but I've also had some not so great mentors.
Mhm.
And I will say for people listening, if you find yourself in a relationship with a mentor where you don't feel like this person has your best interest at heart, find another mentor.
Leave.
Don't give up on mentorship.
Please.
find another mentor,
Yes.
because
Yes.
there are toxic relationships in any world, and sometimes you can get a bad mentor. Keep in mind, I've had amazing mentors, but I've had a few that were like, I learned later, okay, they don't have the best reputation
Yeah.
because for a reason. You know what I mean? For the reason. So
All of my mentors who grew up with, but all of my mentors I'm still very close to.
that's
Annette
fantastic.
Joseph, who's my mentor, she calls herself my second mom. Erica Ward is one of my best friends in the world. And Mr. Robert Perry, who is that contractor who I worked with from the age of 12 until I graduated high school, still can pick up the phone right now, call them up. If I need anything, they've got me. If they need anything, they know they can call me. So those relationships are ones that I cherish with my whole heart.
Yeah. They really,
Is there anything that they've said to you that you still hear in your head on like a bad day? It could be them or any other mentor that sticks with
So,
you.
not anything that I can say on a bad day, but there are things that ring through my mind daily. Like one thing is clean as you go. That's Annette Joseph. So whenever I'm in my kitchen
I
cooking,
love that.
I clean as I go.
Love that.
If I'm on a location, I will clean as I go if I'm installing. So things like that, I'm always making sure that I am keeping in mind when it comes to just, different things that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
I think that's fantastic. And I want to just know, you're so rooted in soulful Southern design. How do you vision your design style evolving from here on out? What's
So,
it going to look like in 5 years?
honestly, I don't know. I just try to not hone in on being so forceful with, how it's going to look in 5 years, but I do want to continue to grow. So I continue to grow and study and figure out what it is that I like. I feel like as I get older, I like different things.
Yeah, yeah. And are you going to expand? I can't imagine you being able to learn anything else at this point because you just do so many things so well. But you do have like such a great brand that you've built. I mean, I've checked out your website, I've checked your socials, and I feel like anybody who does that would feel like they know you. You've done a remarkably great job
Thank
at
you.
conveying who you are in the ways that people would find you. I'm very proud of you that you've done that. I mean,
Thank
it's
you.
really exciting
Thank you
that
so
you
much.
have created that, because it's not something that's easy to do.
Yeah,
It's a lot
No.
harder than people think to
absolutely.
create something like that,
Absolutely.
where it's personal and it feels personal,
Yes.
but it doesn't feel unprofessional.
Right, right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very, very approachable. If there's any advice you could give to any of the designers listening to build something as remarkable as what you have done, what would you give them for advice?
Just stay true to yourself. Stay true to yourself. If it's something that you like, put it out there. Put it out there and see how it's received.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us. We really appreciated
No,
this. And we're going
thank
to make sure
you.
all of you can follow Justin along and find him everywhere that he is, because you really absolutely should.
Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.